coming out of that, I had just made a promise to myself that I was going to properly heal. Hey you guys, it's your girl Ivy and welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time joining us. I wanted to tell the story about how I manifested my dream man, my boyfriend, and frankly, my future husband. And it's truly a blessing. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory into my love life over the years. I would say I've only had 3 serious relationships. Post-editing Aya here, just jumping in because I realized one of the quote-unquote relationships that I was in college, like I'm trying to bucket it in as a serious relationship when in actuality it was not. It felt more like a situationship. And even though it was one that lasted for more than a year, I still don't think that necessarily constitutes as a serious relationship. So if I'm being completely honest with myself, I've only had 2 truly serious relationships. The one that I'm currently in now and the 4-year relationship that I was in before this current relationship. However, moving forward, you will hear me talk about my experiences with the guy that I dated in college, right before the guy that I met like in my senior year of college, right before I started grad school. So just keep that in mind. The first 2 were pretty traumatic. For instance, the first one was a guy that I met in high school, and I think this would be the primary example of that, like, you know, high school puppy love type of situation. It seemed like our relationship, it felt very intense at the time, but it was only for like 3 months. And he broke up with me. He made an excuse that it had something to do with sports, but then like a few weeks after I like cut ties with him, he started dating someone else. So I realized that was the real reason. And just naively, I gave him a chance in college, and he cheated on me with the same girl among other girls. And so that messed me up. Instead of me just focusing on myself and finishing out my undergrad career, I found myself on Tinder to distract myself, and that ended up being me getting involved with another guy. Now, this guy wasn't my age. This guy was about 5-6 years older than me, but he was in the area. So swipe right with him. And at first, you know, I wasn't really trying to get serious with anybody. My friend had suggested Tinder as a way to distract myself, so that's how I ended up on it. And, you know, he just seemed like a cool guy. And with time, I realized, like, yo, you know, like, I really like this guy. He seems really sweet. He seems really cool. And so, I mean, it took me a little while. Maybe it took me a good month or so. But eventually, I said yes to one of his invites for me to go out with him. So met with him, and he seemed cool, but I feel like I also ignored some red flags in the beginning. Anyway, this is not about my failed relationships. This is about, once again, how I manifested my dream man. So to make a long story short, this was my longest relationship. My being involved with him went on for about 4 years, but it is also my most unhealthy relationship, my most traumatic relationship, because beyond cheating, there was emotional abuse, there was a lot of gaslighting, and I feel like in large part because I hadn't, you know, taken the time to heal from my first relationship, I just tolerated a lot more. I would say it was very damaging for me in that I think it set me back. I feel like my self-esteem diminished in this relationship. I felt like my sense of self diminished in this relationship. I felt like my memory began to diminish in that I was gaslit so much that I had a hard time recalling what happened in the past because my recollection of things was constantly downplayed or replaced with his versions of things to the point where I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. And so when I finally broke free of that relationship, after finding out that he was cheating with his coworker, I had to let it go. And I told myself, you know what, at this point, and just for context, I dated him between 23 to age 27, like literally my 20s, like my early 20s to my, late 20s, I was involved with this guy. And so, just from, I think, my own personal growth, because in that relationship, I realized, and even through therapy, I just realized how self-aware I was, but also how I was enabling a person to make me feel like that I was a problem. And so I was constantly overcompensating, trying to make things right when I wasn't the one who needed to be righting wrongs in the first place. Coming out of that, I had just made a promise to myself that I was going to properly heal. Unlike the relationship before him, I was going to make sure I focused on myself. I poured all the love and care and energy into myself versus looking for someone new to transfer those feelings and emotions into. So I did that. In 2021, I ended that relationship early 2021. Within that next year, I literally went within. I started reading more books. I started practicing yoga regularly. I started working out regularly. I got a personal trainer. I was eating better. And mind you, this was all in 2020. So COVID hit and I was still, making the best of it. Even when I was stuck at home for a time, still, like I said, pouring into myself, eating better, praying, strengthening my relationship with God. And at that time, I was also heavy into like spirituality, horoscopes, and I even got a reading from a spiritual guide. And so I felt like even though I was in what felt like one of the most uncomfortable moments of my life, I had a sense of peace. And I knew I made the right decision in ending that relationship because I ended that relationship and felt a sense of peace. And so, yeah, things were on the up and up. I was doing good. And somewhere in there, I think, I don't know where I read it or where I heard it, but I think it was like during one of the full moons, I literally took my journal out and I listed all the things that I desired in my partner. Through therapy, my therapist did tell me to list out like the things that I absolutely will not tolerate in a relationship, as well as the things that I desire or require in a relationship. So I did that. But even beyond doing that in my journal, that one night I decided to list out how my partner would be. Things like they would be my travel partner. We would, try new things, explore new places together. We would support each other in our endeavors, in our businesses. They would be like my best friend, so on and so forth. They'd be loving, they'd be kind, they'd be a great parent. And so I listed all of these things, and through one of the books that I read, The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success, it talks about detachment, meaning you put a desire or want into the universe and you just let the universe or God do his thing instead of obsessing over it and trying to kind of force it. You just live life and let God, let the universe bring that person or that opportunity or that thing to you. So that's what I did. I wrote down that list, I closed that journal, and I just kept on living life. And there were the ups and downs of 2020. But one of the ups was during my birthday weekend in November, I told myself that I was going to move. Shout out to Terrell, because Terrell was moving to Texas and he was encouraging me. He was just like, why not? Like, just do it. And so I said, you know what? I am going to do it. I'm going to move to Atlanta. Even if I don't have my dream job, even if I don't have the pay that I necessarily want to have moving to this new place, I'm going to move to Atlanta. And damn it, by February, I packed up my stepdad's truck. My mom and I drove to Atlanta, and I moved into the first place that I was staying here. And so I came out here, and maybe a month into me coming here, I was like, you know what? Now that I'm a little settled, I want to go on a date. I'm not really looking for anything serious, but it'd be nice to go out, meet some people. I've been single for a year now. I think it's fair for me to get my feet wet, And when I was, even when I was in North Carolina, I was getting my feet wet a bit, in that I entertained a few dates, but it wasn't anything that came from those dates. But they were great experiences nonetheless. I just realized that those people were not for me, and that was okay. I was enjoying being single. I actually came to Atlanta with the mindset that I was going to have my hot girl summer. I never had a hot girl summer in my 20s, and I was like, gosh damn it, I'm gonna have my freaking hot girl summer in 2021, okay? But then there was my partner. Then there was my boyfriend. So I matched with him on Hinge. And it's so funny because people always talk about how they've had such horrible dating experiences in Atlanta. But God must have felt like I already done been through enough. My boyfriend was one of the guys that I swiped right on. And he was actually the only guy that I ended up agreeing to go on a date with. Mind you, it wasn't one of those things where it was just like, oh my gosh, he seems perfect, I'm just gonna cut people off. It was just one of those things where, we went on that first date, we hit it off. And, for me, I had gotten to a point where I just wanted to live in the present. I didn't want to obsess over what it was or what it could be. I just wanted to enjoy his presence. And if I met other guys and ended up going on dates with them, cool. But I just wanted to enjoy the present and enjoy him. And once again, not obsess over what it could be. I didn't want to start planning our wedding just because we had a good first few days. And so we continued to date, and we just realized how strong our connection was. However, right after I moved here to Atlanta, I had gotten a job offer for a position back in North Carolina. Mind you, this was an amazing opportunity. It was what I considered to be my dream position. It was in the field I wanted. It was in the pay range that I wanted and I deserved. And so I took it, and obviously through COVID, everyone was remote. So there wasn't a pressure for me to go back to North Carolina. And frankly, they didn't know if this role would require me to move to North Carolina anyway. So I stayed out here and I continued working in that role, but we both knew that that was a possibility. And for him, long distance relationships are not a thing for him. He's experienced it in the past, and he knows for him, that's his deal breaker. He can't do long distance. And so there was this focus even more on just living in the present and just enjoying my time with him, even if that meant it wouldn't be long term. And that was also so freeing for me too, not putting huge expectations on where we were in our dynamic or where we could be. And I hadn't even considered in getting to know him, like how much he fit the description of that entry I put in my journal, that list that I put in my journal. And so we continued to date, we continued to get to know each other, enjoy each other's company. I ended up not even going on dates with anyone else because his dates were just top tier. He was so intentional about the dates that he planned. And yeah, it was just, I can't describe it, but that, oh my gosh, I'm sorry if I'm all over the place, you guys, but it's just so many components, right? In 2020, another moment in that year that let me know that ending my last relationship was the right decision and that I would be okay. Because also, if I'm being honest, after ending my last relationship, I was low-key giving up on the idea of love. I was starting to feel like, fall into this space of feeling like all men are going to mistreat you. All men are going to cheat. I just know I can't be comfortable in a relationship knowing that my partner has cheated on me. So I just don't even know if it's worth trying. I'm gonna just be Tracy Ellis, living my best single life in my 40s, 50s, and so on. Like, I am content with that. If that's what it takes for me to have peace of mind, then I will take it. I was in that space. But I had a dream in 2020. And I had a dream, and in this dream, at some point, my partner was embracing me. Crazy, I couldn't see his face. I could just feel his embrace. And then at a point, we kissed. And in this dream, it felt so intense and it felt so real that I literally woke up feeling those feelings just as intensely. Like, I felt like I was in love. I woke up smiling, like, what the hell? And this dream is so important because I felt that with my boyfriend. And so, I've joked a couple times with him about how, I dreamed about you before I met you, but I don't know. That's just something. But anyway, like I said, at that point, we met in March, and we were continuing to date. And at that point, I was supposed to get word sometime in July whether or not I would have to move back. And so we were starting to develop feelings for each other. So there was a point where I thought I would be moving back, but then things were pushed out because I believe the Delta variant or something like that. And then I had also just kind of made up in my mind that I didn't move to Atlanta for nothing. I moved out here making significantly less. And if I had faith in God that he would carry me coming out here making significantly less, I knew that he would continue to carry me if that meant having to walk away from this role. And so I had just made it up in my mind. I was still trying to work with them, seeing if they would allow me to stay remote, but I had already made it up in my mind that I was staying. By that time, I had found an apartment, signed a lease. Hello, I am here. Also around that time, he asked me to be his girlfriend, and I said yes. And it has just been so beautiful to this point. I feel valued. I feel seen. I don't have to question whether or not he cares about me. Before I even explain my love languages or we talked through that, he was already communicating with me in those very love languages. He's been so supportive. He's been so kind. He is my travel buddy. I've traveled quite a bit with him. both in the US and out of the US. And March made it a year from our first date, but we haven't even hit a year since we became official, and I honestly am just looking forward to spending the rest of my life with him, because he truly is my best friend. And I just thank God, because like I said, your girl almost gave up. She almost gave up. But I think that time that I took to heal, to self-reflect, to also identify areas that I needed to grow in, shout out to therapy for that as well, I think it truly prepared me. And honestly, my other past relationships, even though they may have harmed me in one way or another and they didn't work out, I feel like all of those relationships helped prepare me for the man that I'm with now. And so if you are going through a heartbreak right now, just know that things get better. If you are feeling like I was when I first ended my last relationship, just know that there are good men out here, that you don't have to live a single life in order to be happy. And know that if you do the work on yourself and you truly love on yourself, God is going to send you a man who will match that love that you have for yourself. I just realized saying that I didn't love myself enough when I was in those last relationships. Do I regret putting all that I put into those relationships? No, because the beauty about putting your all into a relationship is that when you do walk away, or if you do have to walk away, you know that you did your all, you gave your all, you know that you gave your best. And so you don't worry about the what ifs. What if I would have done X, Y, and Z? You don't have to worry about that, because you loved in the best way that you could. And that's one thing that I can say about my past relationships, is that I loved with all of me, even when it didn't seem like that person was deserving of the love that I gave. And I realized that they were loving me in the best way that they could, that they knew how. I just know that that love wasn't for me. And if you are now single, newly single, just know that that love wasn't for you. And there is a love out there that will feel natural, where you won't feel like you're asking for too much, where you won't feel like you have to walk on eggshells around them or uphold a certain facade to keep them interested, to make them see you. You will be able to be your unfiltered self, and they will love you even more for it. So that's how I manifested my dream man, y'all. I did a lot of self-work. I did shadow work, prayer, yoga, journaling, therapy. Just like I said, pouring into myself really did it for me. And truly understanding what I want and do not want in a relationship really did it for me. That helps, because when you know what you want in a relationship, you're able to easily vet people that come into your life. You're able to say, yeah, no, that's not what I want in a relationship. So I'm not going to, waste either of our time trying to make this work. That's not to say that they're a bad person, but once again, they're just not the right one for you. When you're clear on what you want, you don't have to try to make exceptions for certain people. When you're clear on what you want, when you see it, you will know. And I've got it. So that is my story. If you have any questions, of course, let me know in the comments below. If you like this type of content, let me know. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.